Hello everyone, this is Leena. Welcome to my YouTube channel. Today I will going to explain you blockchain charts. But first, let's see the basic of blockchain. What is blockchain? Blockchain is a decentralized ledger of all transaction across a peer-to-peer network. Using this technology, participants can confirm transaction without the need of central certifying authority, and it is the technology that enables the existence of cryptocurrency potentials. Applications include fund transfer, selling trade, voting, and many other uses. Blockchain technology can operate for almost every type of transaction, including money, goods, and property. Its potential uses are virtually endless, from managing taxes to enabling migrants to send money to their families in countries where the banking system is terrible. Blockchain can also help to lessen fraud. Every transaction is recorded and distributed on the public ledger for anyone to see. Bitcoin is a cryptocurrency or a digital currency that uses rules of cryptography for regulation and generation of units of currency. Bitcoin falls under the scope of cryptocurrency and was the first and most valuable among them. It is commonly called a decentralized digital currency. The Bitcoin network and currency was introduced by unknown person or group Satoshi Nakamoto in 2009. The currency was proposed as purely peer-to-peer version of electronic cash, would allow online payments to be sent directly from one party to another without going through a financial institutions. The popularity of Bitcoin or any cryptocurrency for that matter is the anonymity and the secrecy it provides. Though the transactions data is public, the identity of parties involved in the transactions is never revealed, thus the part from being an option for making a payment anonymously. It also attracts money launderers and tax invaders. Of Blockchain.info, we are going to study blockchain charts. Let's see. Under the currency statistics, there are 4 charts which are Bitcoin in circulations, market price in US dollar, market capitalization, US dollar exchange trade volume, and block details gives the informations about blocks. These are the charts which are blockchain size chart, average blockchain size of 1 blocks, transaction per block, median transaction confirmation time with fee, SegWit Adoption, percentage of block signaling, Bitcoin unlimited support, New York agreement support. Next are mining information charts, which includes Hashrate, Hashrate distributions, difficulty, mining revenue, total transaction fees in Bitcoin format, total transaction fees in US dollar format, cost percentage of transaction volume, cost per transactions. Let's move next. Here are the graphs or charts of network activities, unique addresses, total number of transactions per day, total number of transactions, transaction rate, Mempool transaction count, Mempool size growth, Mempool size, Mempool state by fee level, number of unspent transaction outputs, transactions volume excluding popular addresses, transaction volume excluding long chains, total output value, estimated transaction value, estimated US dollar transaction value, and the last but not the least, the blockchain wallet activity chart, which shows the blockchain wallet users. There are total 35 charts we are going to study now. Let's start. Blockchain.info provides multiple measure of data for currency statistics, including Bitcoin in circulations, market price, market capitalization, USD exchange trade volume. Currency statistics chart shows the informations about the Bitcoin transactions in market or in blockchain process. Let's see first graph, that is Bitcoin in circulation. Here it is the graph of Bitcoin in circulation, which shows the total number of Bitcoins that have already been mined. In other words, the current supply of Bitcoin on the network. Here is the vertical axis, shows the number of Bitcoins, and horizontal axis shows the months of the year. This graph are rose steadily over the year. The statistics present the total number of Bitcoins in circulation. The current value of Bitcoin is 16.8 Bitcoins in circulations. Means as of January 14, 16.8 million or 80% of all Bitcoin that will ever exist have been mined. Their total number of Bitcoins are 21 million, which are awarded to miners who validate Bitcoin transactions. As we can also check all-time graph. It's also in increasing trend. Over the 16.8 million Bitcoins have been mined as of January 14. It is impossible to predict when all the 21 million of will have been mined. Some are saying that it can be done in 5 years. Others argue that will not happen in next 100 years as mining will become more difficult. Let's move to our next graph, that is market price. The Bitcoin value in US dollar, and horizontal axis shows the time period. Once this graph peaked at 19,499 US dollar, but then it falls. This is a popular chart to keep tabs on the price, which includes a great way to visualize post price fluctuation. Do you see the roller coaster? The shape of this graph is like roller coaster. The Bitcoin is trading at 14,000 US dollar, which is 30% below than the peaked value. The price of Bitcoin is as unstable as always. It can go up or down by 10% or 20% in a single day. Let's move to our next graph, that is market capitalization. chart displays the historical number of total bitcoins in existence multiplied by exchange rate for that day in US dollar. This graph picked at 326 billion US dollar in December 17. There are huge number of bitcoins available, a huge number of value of bitcoins which falls sharply. The current value shows the 235 billion US dollar bitcoins available in circulations, or we can say that in daily average market price is 235 billion. This Bitcoin market capitalization chart gives us the total amount of dollars currently held in the Bitcoin market, including past years, going all the way back to the start of Bitcoin in 2009. That's all about the market capitalizations. Let's move to next graph, that is US exchange trade volume. This is the graph of USD exchange trade volume. It shows the total US dollar value of trading volume on major Bitcoin exchanges. The vertical axis shows the trade volume in US dollar, or horizontal shows the months. It is highly fluttered graph. It picked at 5 billion US dollar in December 17 and then fall sharply. Blockchain analysis company Chain Analysis has estimated that 2.78 million to 3.79 million bitcoins worth of to $50 billion at current prices have already been lost forever. Bitcoin enthusiasts have said this will result in rapid surge in prices to levels up to $100,000 per token. On 14th of Jan 2018, Bitcoin is trading at $14,000, more than 30% below its $20,000 record high. Bitcoin has also been losing its dominance in the cryptocurrency market, of which it can hold a 33% share, down from the 85% it held last year. That's all about the currency statistics. Blockchain.info provides multiple measures of data for block details, including blockchain size, average block size, orphan blocks, transaction per block, medium transaction confirmation time, SegWit adoption, percentage of block signaling, Bitcoin unlimited support, New York Agreement. Let's see the blockchain size. Here is the graph of blockchain size. It shows the total size of all block headers and transactions, that does not including database indexes. Vertical axis shows the size in MB. A block records some or all the most recent Bitcoin transactions that have not yet entered in the prior blocks. Thus, a block is like a page or a ledger or record book. Each time a block is completed, it gives way to the next block in the blockchain. This blockchain size graph is significantly increases. The current size is 115,000 MB, and as day by day block included in the blockchain, the blockchain size increases. We can say that in future this graph will steadily in increasing format. That's all about the blockchain size. Let's move to our next graph, that is average block size. The vertical axis shows size in MB. It is all-time graph. It revealed that the average block size had increased from around 0.1 MB since 2013, while the daily volume of Bitcoin transactions had increased 2.5 times. In turn, some blocks are already hitting this maximum. At the time of Red Blocks research, this was happening on average more than 4 times a day. A measure of central tendency is a single value that attempts to describe a set of data. It's slightly fluctuated and well under 1 MB. Here you see the zoom part of this chart. It's highly fluctuated and it's well under 1 MB. But the latest chart shows that it increases above 1 MB. The current average block size is 1.05 MB. That's all about the average block size. Let's move to next chart of block detail, that is orphan block. Here is the chart of orphan block. It shows the total number of blocks that mine but ultimately not attached to the main Bitcoin blockchain. The vertical axis shows the number of blocks. This chart picked at 3 blocks in February 2017. These orphan blocks or detached blocks are valid blocks which are not part of the main chain. They can occur naturally when two miners produce blocks at similar times, or they can be caused by an attackers attempting to reverse transactions. It doesn't have any effect on rest of the chain. In June 2017, there is two orphan block occurred, but it leveled out at 0 since July 2017 till now. Since we have not experienced any orphan block in last few days, we suppose the issue has been fixed. Moreover, the block propagation times are being now being carefully monitored, and we believe such increased attentions will lead to stable validations in the future. That's all about the orphan block. Let's move to next chart, that is transaction per block. This chart shows the average number of transactions per block. Vertical axis shows transaction per block and horizontal axis shows the time period. As we know that transactions are broadcasted by anyone in the system, but it depends on the miners. He or she is the one who groups them up and includes them in the block. There is 1 MB block size limit, which limits how many transactions can be included in a block. This limit is to prevent huge blocks that clog the network and may be removed if the number of transactions in the network ever grows such that the limit is serious factor. Good miners accept all transactions with the standard 0.0001 Bitcoin fee, which is mainly as a spam prevention measure. Other miners avoid to decrease their propagation time. It totally depends on miner which transactions they want to accept or not, or include in block or not. This block is highly fluctuating mode. It goes up, down. It gives that approximate transactions done by each block. Current transaction per block is 1824. In general, miners like bigger fees and smaller transactions and may prioritize them that way. Let's move to next chart. This graph shows the median confirmation time. This shows the median time for transaction to be accepted into a mine block and added to the public ledger. It only includes transactions with minor fees. The vertical axis shows time in minutes. With median, you need more than 50% of transactions to go into the next block to rise beyond one confirmation. This graph is highly fluctuating and the current median transaction confirmation time is 8.4 minutes. Let's move to next chart, that is of SegWit Adoption. Here is the chart of SegWit Adoption. This chart shows the percentage of blocks signaling SegWit support. SegWit stands for the segregated witness. What is SegWit? SegWit is a soft fork change in transaction format. If miners want more space in their block, he or she has two options. One is to create new block, or another one is extend the current block. The creating new block, it's called hard fork, and extending the current block is called soft fork. SegWit is such type of soft fork change. This graph's vertical axis shows percentage. SegWit is a process by which the block size limit on the blockchain is increased by removing signature data from Bitcoin transactions. As we analyzing the pattern of this graph, The graph dramatically went up to 100% in August to 2017 and then suddenly dropped to less than 1% and slowly moving below 1%. This is less than 10% of Bitcoin transaction uses SegWit. That means it struggled to surpass 10%. Let's move to our next chart. Let's analyze the next chart, percentage of block signaling Bitcoin unlimited support. Here is the chart of percentage of block signaling Bitcoin unlimited support. It shows the percentage of the last 200 blocks that signal support for Bitcoin unlimited. For each block miners mine, they get to send themselves one transactions that include brand new Bitcoins. This is called the coin-based transaction. Like all transactions, this transaction can include a little bit of extra data that actually has nothing to do with the transaction itself. This is what miners sometimes use to signal information to the rest of the world. But broadly speaking, there are really two types of signaling. One is signaling support and another one is signaling intent. This is the signaling support chart. This requires that actual Bitcoin software has been written to monitor the signal, and once this signal reaches some kind of threshold, something actually activates in all of these Bitcoin clients. It will enforce SegWit rules once 95% of newly mined blocks include a specific piece of data in Coinbase strings and blocks that break the SegWit rules. If that happens, all node will actually reject transactions. As we see that it trading in rounding pattern. Bottom rounding pattern, or before that it shows the rounding top rounding pattern, and the top rounding pattern is complete. The value breaks down and will going down, suddenly go down. From November 17 it dropped sharply to less than 1% or 0%. The current percentage of block signaling Bitcoin support is 0%. That's all about the signaling support. Next, move to our next chart, that is New York Agreement support. It is the second type of signaling, which is the signaling intent. This is chart for New York Agreement support, which shows the percentage of block signaling for the New York Agreement over the last 200 blocks. The New York Agreement, sometimes referred to as the Silbert Accord or SegWit 2x, is a scaling agreement forked within a significant group of international Bitcoin companies and published just before the Consensus 2017 conference in New York last May. Based on this agreement, a fork of Bitcoin core software client is being developed under the name BTC1. New York Agreement consists of two stages. One is deployment of SegWit and another one is a hard fork of itself. The pattern of graph is fluttered in between 80 to 90%, 80 to 100%. Then from November or yeah, from November to 2017, it falls sharply to the 5%, and then it decreases steadily, and current New York agreement support percentage is 2.5%. That's all about the block details. Now it's time to analyze the mining information charts. But first, what is mining? Bitcoin mining is the process of using computer hardware to do intensive computational operations for the Bitcoin network in order to validate transactions. The mining is a poisonous process, as each attempt to solve a block is unpredictable. Then, in a theory, everyone might mine all day and never solve a block. Similarly, it's also possible that a single miner might find 6 blocks in a succession. Both outcomes are possible. Now, let's see the first chart of mining, that is hash rate. Here is the chart of hash rate. It shows the estimated number of terahashes per second the Bitcoin network is performing. We know that hash rate is the number of combination guesses per second. It is the measuring unit that measures how much power Bitcoin network is consuming to be continuously function. The vertical axis shows the hash rate per second. As we observing the pattern of this graph, it's with large spikes occur frequently, and it appears that huge amount of hashing capacity have either come online or gone offline. It is a fluttered graph. Increases day by day with lots of fluctuation. The next chart in mining information is hash rate distribution. This is the pie chart of hash rate distribution. It shows an estimation of hash rate distributions among the largest mining pool. The pie chart shows the market share of most popular Bitcoin mining pool. These are mining pools. BTC.com has highest hash rate distribution, highest hash rate, which is 21%. Then Antpool has 19.7%, which is the second largest mining pool. As we go down, here is a data table which shows the list of mining pools and the number of hash rates are distributed to them. The data displayed on this page shows all the Bitcoin mining hash rate distribution over a rolling 4-day period, which is more stable and accepted approach to determining global Bitcoin mining hash rate due to variance. As we Here is the 4 days cycle. It is 24 hours for 48 hours and it's for 4 days. It is important to monitor because the integrity of the network depends on a single actor not exceeding 50% of overall hashing power. That's all about the hash rate distribution. Next, move to difficulty chart. This chart shows the relative measure of how difficult it is to find a new block. The difficulty is adjusted periodically as a function of how much hashing power has been deployed by the network of miners. The vertical axis shows the difficulty level. The current worldwide hashing rate affects difficulty changes. As we reading this graph, it shows that it gradually increasing. Current difficulty level is 2 trillion, more than 2 trillion. That's all about the difficulty. Let's see the next chart, that is of mining revenue. Here is the chart of mining revenue or miners revenue. It shows the total value of Coinbase block rewards and transaction fees paid to the miners. Originally 50 bitcoins were earned as a reward for the mining a block. It then dropped to 25 bitcoins and then to 12.5 bitcoins. The vertical axis shows the rate in US dollar. It shows that graph is fluttered and peaked in December 2017 at 53 million US dollar, and it dropped to the 32 million dollar in January 2018. As of see the previous two graphs, that is difficulty chart and the Bitcoin hash rate charts. Hash rate, miners rewards and difficulty are interdependent on each other in various ways. Whenever Bitcoin network's difficulty goes up, more hash is required to mine and find the blocks, and as a result miners earn the block reward of 12.5 bitcoins plus the transaction fees. Interestingly, the Bitcoin network's difficulty goes up because of more miners joining the network, and thus the hash power needs to be increased. That's from this we can predict that in 2020 it will fall to 6.25 bitcoins, making mining unprofitable. That's all about the miners revenue. Our next chart is total transaction fees in bitcoins. This chart shows the total transaction fees in the form of bitcoins. That's why vertical axis shows bitcoins, number of bitcoins. It shows the total values of all transactions fees paid to the miners. It does not including the Coinbase value of block rewards. Such explosive growth, which peaked at 1,496 bitcoins in December 2017 is a rather strange, which, which falls at 0.510 bitcoins in January 2018, with a block size remaining 1 MB, paying a higher transaction fee slowly becomes the new normal. For miners, that is good news, as they will earn slightly more money in the process. For consumers, this makes using Bitcoin more expensive than it needs to be. Let's move to our next chart. Next move to next chart, that is total transaction fees in US dollar. As in previous chart, we seen the total transaction fees in Bitcoin format. It is same as that chart, but it is in the form of US dollar. The vertical axis shows US dollar. It shows the total value of all transaction fees paid to the miners. The total transaction fees paid to the miner have surpassed or exceed US dollar 10 million and peaked at US dollar 22 million in December 2017, but in January 2018 it dropped sharply, and the current value is 7 million. Let's move to our next chart, that is a cost percentage of transaction volume. Here's the graph. It shows the miners revenue as percentage of the transaction volume. This is well under 2%. It is highly fluctuating graph. It's not constant, it's unstable graph, but it's below 2%. The latest cost percentage of transaction volume is 1.180%. Let's check next chart, that is cost per transaction. This graph shows the cost per transactions, showing miners revenue divided by the number of transactions. Vertical axis shows US dollars. It gives the value 122 US dollar, which is less as compared to when it peaked at 162 in December 2017. 122, it's 162. That's all about the mining information charts. Now we are going to analyze network activity charts. Our first chart is unique addresses. Here is the chart for the unique addresses, which shows the total number of unique addresses used on a Bitcoin blockchain. Address is an identifier of 26 to 35 alphanumeric characters, beginning with the number 1 or 3, that represents a possible destinations for a Bitcoin payment. Addresses can be generated at no cost by any user of Bitcoin. There are two address formats: common P2PKH, which begins with number 1, and another one is P2SH starting with number 3. This graph, the vertical axis shows the unique addresses, number of unique addresses. By using a unique address per order, you will always know which payment belongs to which order. As we visualize it in zoom mode, then it shows that it is very up and down patterns, which is highly unstable, not constant at any position. Let's check this graph. It shows that top round pattern. There is one curve and price will go down. The current price is current number of unique addresses it 670,000. Now let's move to our next chart, that is total number of transactions per day. This is the chart of total number of transactions per day. It shows the number of daily confirmed Bitcoin transactions. The Bitcoin number of transactions chart shows the unique number of transactions per day in the Bitcoin network. As I see, the vertical axis shows the transactions, and this graph given double bottoms pattern. Here is double bottoms like this, and another bottom is this. Yeah, double bottom, and it's sharply fluttering. As we know that the transaction chart of transactions in blockchains are unstable charts. They are not constant at all. Current transaction number is 270,623 transactions. This chart is a good primer to see how much Bitcoin volume there is day to day. That's all about the confirmed transactions chart. Now move to total number of transactions. As we check in previous chart the total number of transactions per day. Now we see chart of the total number of transactions. It gives us the overall transaction number. The vertical axis shows the transactions. It gives us idea of overall transactions done under the blockchain. Since the birth of Bitcoin, that is from 2009, it's steadily increases the number of transactions. The current transactions are 292 million transactions done in January 15 in 2018. That's all about the total number of transactions. Let's move to transaction rate. This is the chart of transaction rate. It shows the number of Bitcoin transactions added to the mempool per second. Bitcoin transactions vary in size depending on multiple factors, such as whether they are spending single signature input or multiple signature inputs, and how many inputs and outputs they have. On the long term average, the number of transactions is limited to the number of transactions that can enter the blockchain. But on the short term basis, while the mempool, which is for the memory pool, fills or with transactions being replaced, the rate can be as fast as node can process transactions. On reasonably fast hardware, this can easily hit a few thousand per second. Transaction rate tells us how many transactions per second are added to the mempool of Bitcoin transactions awaiting confirmations. Once it peaked at 34 transactions per second in December, sorry, in at sorry in 12 January 2018. Yeah, then it decreases. When this number drastically increase or decrease from a typical rate, this can be an early indicator of an issue like network congestion or a major wallet or exchange experiencing downtime. The current transaction per second is latest value is 2 transactions per second. That's all about transactions rate. Now move to our next chart, that is of mempool transaction count. Here is the chart of mempool transaction count. This chart shows the number of transactions waiting to be confirmed. Means only transactions on the blockchain are considered confirmed and don't exist on the blockchain if they are not confirmed, and instead exist only in the mempool. Mempool means memory pool. Now how these things happen? The data is separated into different fee level given in the Satoshi per bytes. Miners preferred high fee transactions. New block usually only removes the top 1000 kilobytes from the queue. The lower amounts of transactions take more than 1 MB and comes under mempool. Sizes include the SegWit discount if applicable. The transactions who comes under mempool or enters in mempool are considered as unconfirmed, and the transactions which enters in blockchain are considered as confirmed transaction. At first, the vertical axis shows the number of transactions. After observing this graph, at first it is a large and steadily growing, but then it started falling. It it's a falling wage, and from January 16 it started increasing with fluctuation. The current number of transaction is 21,753, which is in the format of it's growing day by day. That's all about the Mempool transaction count. Now we see the Mempool size growth. This is the chart for Mempool size growth. It shows the rate at which the mempool is growing per second. The vertical axis shows byte per second. Once this chart peaked at more than 50,000 bytes per second. And it's started falling, and the current mempool size growth is 1608 bytes per second. That's all about the mempool size growth. Let's move to our next chart, that is of mempool size. Here is the chart of mempool size, which shows the aggregate size of transactions waiting to be confirmed. The vertical axis shows the bytes, number of bytes. In Bitcoin, the mempool operates as a holding area for unconfirmed transactions. Payments made by the user await in the mempool until miners arrive to confirm the transactions. The size of Bitcoin mempool, which remains at around 28,392 bytes, as we seen in previous chart of mempool transaction count, where the number of unconfirmed transactions are 28,392, represents the aggregate size of transactions waiting to be confirmed. The mempool size has increased considerably since Genesis, and some initial research shows that the size does grow with abnormal network conditions, with high volume spikes. It shows in 16 January 2018, it records 128 million bytes. Then it dropped suddenly to the 3 million bytes, and then it started gradually, and the current value of mempool, or current size of mempool, is 33 million. If the size of Bitcoin mempool is high, transactions fees recommended by wallet platform such as Blockchain, Coinbase and Treasure Search, and failing to attach high fees could result in a transactions being delayed for many days if the Bitcoin mempool does not clear. As we see that on 16 January 2018, it records 33 million byte size. As a consequence, transactions fees of Bitcoin recommended by wallets surge up to $30 million. $30 depending on the size of transactions and the number of inputs and outputs. That's all about the mempool size. Mempool size is one of the important chart of blockchain. Let's move to our next chart, that is of mempool state by fee level. Here is the chart of mempool state, which shows the breakdown of the mempool by fee level. The vertical axis shows the bytes in the mempool. The horizontal axis shows the miner's fee per byte in satoshis. As we know that the mempool consists unconfirmed transactions. This chart shows the current state of the mempool organized by fee level. Each transaction's fee level is defined as the number of satoshis per byte the transaction pays. In order to maximize profits, miners typically give priority to transactions paying at a higher fee level. Let's see the activity of this mempool state chart. It shows the priority level, then it's regular. Its priority level is 421 sat per byte. Limitation is 1 to 2 MB. That's all about the mempool state chart. Now let's check the chart of number of unspent transaction output. This is the chart for number of unspent transaction output. It shows the number of unspent Bitcoin transactions outputs, also known as the UTXO set size. In an accepted transactions, in a valid blockchain payment system, only unspent outputs can be used as input to a transactions. When transactions takes place, inputs are deleted and outputs are created as a new UTXOs. In the Bitcoin network, a UTXO is the amount that is transferred to Bitcoin address during the transactions. Received amounts, that is UTXOs, are used individually during the transactions and new outputs are created, one for receiver and if applicable one for the amount that is left over. We can call it change output. The amount sent to the recipient becomes a new UTXO in the recipient's address, while the change output becomes a new UTXO in the sender's address that may be used in the future transactions. The vertical axis shows the number of outputs. The graph shows in increasing format, it growing day by day. The current number of outputs are 67 million outputs. That's all about the number of UTXOs. Let's move to our next chart. That is of transaction volume excluding popular addresses. The next chart is transaction volume excluding popular addresses. This is the chart for transactions volume excluding popular addresses, which shows the total number of Bitcoin transactions excluding those which involving any of the network's 100 most popular addresses. it excluded popular addresses just for the security point of view. The vertical axis shows the number of transactions. The pattern of graph is unstable. Once it peaked at 407,000, and it dropped. Now current condition is 259,000 number of transactions. The number of Bitcoin transactions excluding popular addresses hits a new all-time high. It's telling that the number of transactions has managed to rise beyond that the December 2013. Despite a rather poor price trajectory, it's very good sign. It's growing. That's all about the number of transactions excluding popular addresses. Let's move to our next chart, that is of transaction volume excluding long chain. This is the chart of number of transactions excluding chains longer than 100. It shows the total number of Bitcoin transactions per day excluding those part of long transaction chains. There are many legitimate reasons to create long transaction chain. However, they may also be caused by coin mixing or possible attempts to manipulate transactions volume. By removing this long chain, the volume decreases by 3 times. Yet there does appear to be an uptrend over the past several months. A long chain, as defined by the BCI, appears to be transactions chain whose growth rate exceeds a target value in 24-hour period. It peaked at 318,000 transactions, but it falls down and then again it increases. It's highly fluttered. This seems to indicate that approximately 68% of all transactions in Bitcoins are part of the long chain. That's all about the number of transactions volume excluding the long chain. Now let's move to our next chart, that is of total output value. This is the chart of total output value, which shows the total value of all transactions output per day. It includes the coins returned to the sender as change. Vertical axis shows the bitcoins, number of bitcoins. Now it's gradually dropped to the 1 million bitcoins. Each bitcoin transactions create outputs. A transaction output sits in UXTO pool and a transaction points to a transaction output in the UXTO and says to the network via mathematical proof. That's all about the output value. Let's move to our next chart. that is of estimated transaction value. Here is the graph of estimated transaction value. It shows the total estimated value of transactions on the Bitcoin blockchain. It does not include coins returned to the sender as change. The estimated Bitcoin transactions value is best guess at how much Bitcoin was actually sent from person A to person B based on purely on the output account. Once it peaked at 505,000 Bitcoins at in August 2017. Then it goes down, and the current estimated transaction value is 201,000 Bitcoins. That's all. Now move to our next chart, that is of estimated USD transaction value. This chart shows the estimated transactions value in US dollar value. Vertical axis shows the US dollar value. This graph rises from February 17 to December 2017, which is 5 billion US dollar, and then it drop, and latest value is 2 billion US dollar. Now we analyze all network activity charts. Now we are going to analyze our last chart of blockchain, that is of blockchain wallet activity. This is the chart of blockchain wallet user. It shows the total number of blockchain wallets created. Vertical axis shows the user counts, and pattern of this graph is steadily increasing order. The current number of users are 22 million, more than 22 million. The My Wallet number of users chart is a graph that displays the total number of blockchain wallet users over time. This chart is a great unit of measure to show how many users are adopting Bitcoin months over the month. That's all about the blockchain wallet users chart. After watching this video, you get the basic understanding of charts on blockchain. Thank you for watching my video.